Welcome to the Shyamcast. This is Brett.
This is Shyam.
Thanks so much for being here with us. How's it going today, Shyam?
Very nice so far. Uh, it's a lovely day. Very nice speaking with you just before the podcast with so many topics.
Mm, yeah, any opportunity to speak with devotee friends is a good opportunity.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Um, so uh today's we're gonna maybe try to change things a little bit and just sort of introduce maybe like the topic that we're gonna
Mm,
focus on, at the beginning of each episode. So
mm,
today's topic, as we're in chapter 3 of Bhagavad Gita, would be sacrifice.
mm,
And maybe more specifically, working or working as a sacrifice. We've been
mm,
talking about how Krishna is telling Arjuna he needs to do his duty,
mm,
and as we move on in this chapter, he starts talking about really performing the work that you need to do in your life as a sacrifice,
mm,
and sort of the benefits that come from that, and the reason why one should do that. So
mm,
that's what we'll try to focus on
mm,
today. How's that
mm,
sound?
mm. Sounds great.
You do a lot of sacrifices. You sacrifice more than most people I know, so you're
We'll talk
familiar
about
with this.
sacrifice. Yeah, we'll talk about it today.
Okay. So where we left off, I guess maybe verse 8 would just be a good verse to read to sort of take us from where we were into where we're going.
Mm,
So Krishna tells Arjuna, perform your prescribed duty, for doing so is better than not working. One cannot even maintain one's physical body without work. So he's sort of pointing out, I guess, the obvious fact, like even you can't like we mentioned last time, there is no real thing. There's no such thing as doing nothing. You know,
mm,
you even at the bare minimum, you have to maintain your body.
mm,
You have to do a certain amount of work just to live in this world. So doing the prescribed duty that's based off of the natural qualities you have
mm,
is much better than, say, renouncing everything,
mm,
not doing any work.
mm,
Um, and we have a lot of people in today's world, it seems, an increasing number of people, or so, I hear it from the sparse news sources that I have, but more and more people are not working, in
mm,
today's world. There's just more and more people who are sort of giving up that, that whole idea of work, or they're just not, for whatever reason, they're just not searching for a job. They're not searching for their work.
mm,
Not trying to sort of not maybe, there's some people who have kind of given up hope on whatever their goals are, or whatever their
mm,
um sort of the natural, the things that they would be a lot more y- fulfilled in their lives
mm,
if they tried to do those things. So yeah, this is the first, I guess, where we start. It's kind of just summarizing where we were last time.
mm, mm,
And basically Krishna goes on to talk about then, performing work as a sacrifice.
mm,
Um, can you maybe just talk a little bit about, just some of the main points maybe that Krishna makes, or just, how you how you would describe, what it is to do, our
mm.
duty in life as a sacrifice, what that means.
What does sacrifice mean to you?
To me?
Mhm. Like just have a talk about
Yeah.
churning this word and then adding what Krishna is speaking about it.
The first thing that
Sacrifice.
Yeah, first thing that comes to my mind is basically like having to give something up. Or sacrifice means giving something up. I guess usually for the sake of a future reward,
Mm,
or for the benefit of somebody else.
mm,
What I also think of. So that, sacrifice means it's really not for me ultimately.
mm, mm. Okay, now we will discuss more in fourth chapter, but why sacrifice required? What do you think?
Hmm. Why is it required?
So
I
sacrifice is something for others. The
Mhm.
sacrifice need to we need to take inconvenience for ourselves. Is it necessary? And only then it is called sacrifice or not necessary? Is
Mhm.
inconvenience taken a necessary aspect of sacrifice or no?
Is inconvenience necessary for sacrifice? Hmm. You know, I suppose I I suppose a lot of us might say yes,
Yes.
or at least it seems like it, right?
Yeah.
There's got to be some kind of inconvenience. Um, I mean, I guess I'll go with that. Yeah, it feels like there's got to be some sort of like not getting everything you want is a part of sacrificing, you know, or yeah, making things have to be at least a little bit difficult if I'm really going to make a sacrifice.
Hmm. That's like how it is commonly understood, right?
Hmm.
Hmm. And then you said there is an aspect of doing things for the pleasure of others. I'm sacrificing for somebody.
Hmm.
So which way more for the sake of somebody else or a personal inconvenience?
Ah, hmm. Are you kind of asking like which one is more on the mark as far as like what is a
Yeah.
sacrifice?
Yeah.
Um, well, I would say the first one, right, like for the sake of other people is more of what I think a
It
sacrifice really is.
means. Now,
Yeah.
how about if I'm doing something for the sake of somebody and I love doing it?
Mm. Well, then it's best of both worlds, I guess.
So is it still a sacrifice? I'm doing it for somebody else, but I love doing it. So what I'm trying to say is what really sacrifice means.
Mm.
I may take personal inconvenience, but then maybe I love doing it.
Mm. Yeah. Like maybe a mother, for example.
Huh.
Um, there's so much. I mean, you could say this mothers in particular of all, mothers and fathers, but maybe mothers in particular are like inconvenienced more than most other
Anybody
people,
else? Yeah.
anybody else. But they, it's like a mother loves taking care of her children.
Hmm.
And so it's like all those little inconveniences or little sacrifices that she has to make, it's she loves to do. It's like what makes life worth living.
She cooks. She cooks for the child. She stays whole night up many times. Her whole life is a mess. Many times she gives up her job,
Mm-hmm.
especially during the first year. So much sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
But what if she enjoys doing that? So is that still considered sacrifice? Or unless I experience some pain, only that is the major angle of sacrifice.
Mm. Yeah. So I guess what I'm getting is sacrifice is often seen as something that has to be an inconvenience
Mm,
or cause pain or be difficult, but maybe it's really just about like the perception that we have of it or
mm,
what our mind state is as we're going about our business doing all these things,
mm,
um because yeah, there's so many things that so many examples of how sacrifice can be like the best thing, like the thing that we love doing, the thing that
mm,
we
mm,
want to do even that gives us more joy than anything
mm,
else.
mm. So, really, the definition of sacrifice is for the pleasure of others.
Mm,
The inconvenience is not in the definition of sacrifice.
mm,
But even if I have to take inconvenience for the pleasure of others, then that is added in the word sacrifice. But that's not like the primary symptom of sacrifice. We say this primary symptom, secondary symptom. Secondary may or may not be present. Primary is always there.
mm, mm. Yeah. I'm thinking of different examples,
Hmm.
just
Okay.
in life of sacrifice and um whether you think of, anybody who has really accomplished something in whatever their chosen field is, uh, it's very well known that it requires a lot of sacrifice to get there. Whether you're in business or you're an athlete, the Olympics are going on. I like the Olympics a lot, so I watch,
Mm,
a lot of like different events that where like you would never really see that particular sport anywhere else. I really enjoy that aspect of it. And you get to see like the culmination of somebody's lifetime of work, and it's like they have 1 minute and here it is. um so anyway, no matter what it is, it requires so much sacrifice to get to the or to to become really good at something.
mm,
And it's almost like the more that you hone your skill at something, the more you have to sacrifice.
mm,
So
mm,
it's like it's a prerequisite of advancing, even
mm,
in certainly in a material sense. Think of,
mm,
you've spoken before about like the business person who they give up even sense pleasures because
mm,
they're just spending, they give up their sleep, they skip meals, they're
mm,
just like they're so focused on
mm,
this work, and
mm,
so that takes a lot of sacrifice, but
mm,
they really enjoy doing it.
mm, mm,
So I guess just, that greater point anyway, that no matter what it is in life that we're doing, it requires sacrifice.
mm. Okay. So now we'll shift little gears to Krishna's reference to sacrifice in Gita.
Hmm.
And we'll discuss something, maybe two, three things about what Krishna speaks at different places in Bhagavad Gita about sacrifice. So what does Krishna speaks about sacrifice here? Krishna says, work has to be done as a sacrifice for the sake of the divine. Otherwise, work causes bondage.
Mm,
Now, there are two aspects to it. One thing is I am working for the sake of divine, and it is like I love working for the sake of divine. And another is I am so attached to the results that it's difficult for me to work for the sake of divine because I'm so attached to the results.
mm,
So when I am attached, then to work for divine is difficult. So the purpose is still do it for the sake of divine. But there is some kind of inconvenience caused. That is inconvenience is caused because of my attachment. But somebody who has love for the divine, he will do it naturally and he would love doing it. And he hate doing things for himself or herself, and he loves doing for the sake of divine. So for him, it's a joy to do things for the sake of divine. So both are sacrifice. In one, there is an angle of personal inconvenience. In an advanced stage, there is no angle of personal inconvenience. But that's like a greatest convenience. But both is sacrifice. Okay, what do you think about that?
mm. So a question then, how do we get to that point to where, I guess, first of all, we know what is sacrificing for the divine, right? How do we sort of know we're on the right track there? That this is, okay, I'm doing this work, for the divine. Um, yeah, I guess maybe we'll just start with that one,
Hmm.
you know.
Going little bit off track from work, from
Hmm.
karma, and speaking a little bit about bhakti. And Krishna speaks about in 10th chapter. Krishna speaks about the best of all the sacrifices. Any remembrance? He
Hmm.
says the best among all the sacrifice is japa.
Ah.
You remember seeing that?
Hmm.
He says the best sacrifice is japa. Japa is like we do mantra meditation. We meditate on the names. It's a form of meditation. For some, it's a work. For some, it's like I want to do it because it makes me feel good. Like we have Prabhupada Priya Devi visiting, and she said it's nice if we do something because it makes us feel good, but it's even higher when we do something for the sake of when okay, by doing this meditation, Krishna feels good. Now, in the beginning, it may be a real sacrifice. Oh, to do such meditation, sit and focus, and the mind is like a monkey, and it's like difficult. But for some, they look forward for that opportunity to sit and meditate, and they feel so divine. But Krishna says it's a sacrifice. But then Krishna also says this process of bhakti is a sacrifice. Actually, bhakti yoga is a sacrifice. So the word sacrifice, as you said, the primary component of sacrifice is for the sake of somebody else. And when it is done for the sake of anybody in this world, it's gonna cause bondage. When it is done, so the object of sacrifice is also important. But when it is done for the sake of the Lord or the sake of those who represents the Lord, for the sake of them, when it is done, then it's a cause of liberation.
Mm.
But the principle is somebody else is in the focus. Inconvenience is experience in the beginning stage. At advanced stage, that inconvenience converts into joy.
Mm.
And that's what Krishna describes as a higher taste.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah. And there's along the way there's little like rewards, right?
Uh-huh.
That one receives. Seems
Amazing
like a
rewards.
yeah, part of the whole spiritual process is like you sort of have to get tested. You have to do some things that initially you don't like to do, that or that you find difficult, that you feel are inconveniences. And it's like you're sort of carried along the way in this
Mm,
way, right? Where
mm,
um I remember I think it was Kalakanta Prabhu saying one time, like, no, we wouldn't chant for 2 hours a day or more if we didn't have some taste for it. You know,
mm,
seems like an obvious thing, but it's like,
mm,
the people who engage in meditation for many
mm,
hours a day,
mm,
people who are practicing all day long,
mm,
doing not just chanting, but various other things, it's like it's obvious. It just should be obvious that they really are enjoying doing it.
mm,
um
mm,
Maybe from the perspective of a newcomer, I know, like, from my perspective, many times, like, I just can't wrap my head around it. I just don't understand, like, how can you really, like, get so much from doing that?
mm,
um but the message is very clear anyway, that it definitely comes with time.
mm,
And you just sort of see a little bit, it's I guess, it just seems like if you really put in some effort
mm,
into your practice, there's oftentimes, like, quicker than you even imagine it,
mm,
like, even quicker than you think it's going to happen. You're just sort of given something, some little reward, some little realization about your life, some, just something where
mm,
um it sort of, it makes it feel worthwhile, gives some joy, and then you just feel like you're on the right track. You feel like you're doing the right thing. It makes you want to continue.
mm, mm. So now what's our definition of sacrifice now?
Mm.
What is sacrifice?
What is sacrifice? Well, doing something for others, so
Mm,
acting selflessly.
mm.
um and I suppose, I mean, I don't know if, like, finding joy in those things, or like building, I don't know if that would be included, or if that's sort of what you're thinking.
Independent of whether it's inconvenience or it's joyful.
Mm,
The act of doing something for the sake of other is sacrifice.
of others, yeah. Would, like, saying it's out of love, would that
Even
be
if
like the
it's out of
highest
duty,
sacrifice? Ah.
even it's out of duty, it's still a sacrifice. For
Mm-hmm.
example, many of us, for example, taking the part of meditation, we may do meditation out of duty. No, yeah, I must do meditation for maybe 45 minutes a day. It's more like I'm really tired, I want to sleep. No, 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 I need to get this done.
Mm.
Correct? But then that becomes a sacrifice. But for somebody who does it like with great joy, for them also sacrifice. But the sacrifice who does with great joy is way more beneficial than somebody who does it just out of duty. But the concept of sacrifice is there in both the cases.
Mm. Mm. So the key then is to do it selflessly, or to attempt, really attempt to do it
Yes.
selflessly.
Now come back to the principle of karma yoga.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm doing karma yoga. And Krishna says, if you do it for me, no bondage, no bondage. If you do it for yourself, or for the sake of others. See, this is a little bit difficult to understand. I'm doing it for my child. Does it cause bondage or does it free us?
Mm.
It's tough. I'm doing it out of love for my child.
Hmm. I mean, it seems like it's would still maybe causes a little bondage.
Yes.
Seems
And
like it.
how does it bind?
Hmm. Well, if there's attachment for results,
Mm,
um, even if it's for one's child,
mm,
I guess, like I think of, maybe like the parent who gets very, very upset when
mm.
something happens to their
Yes.
child that
Yes.
maybe is really more of like a mild thing, you know,
Yes.
or it's just sort of a natural thing, but it's like they're very much attached to like everything being perfect for their child or, something like that. And
Mm,
so it's sort of that situation when it arises, like, I mean, it
mm,
causes a lot of stress and anxiety and anger in the parent,
mm,
but then also in the child as well. They see the parent's reaction,
mm,
and so it's sort of like,
mm,
that attachment breeds
mm,
some reactions in their
mm.
child as well.
And we also see that there is a spiritual angle missing because
Mm,
the mother may think this is my child, but actually nobody is a son and nobody is a father. In a way, based on karma, different living entities comes together and they live and they are all connected as part and parcel of the divine, but based on karma come back together and then separate. Also in Bhagavatam, there is a verse which says, those who are very attached, say to their children, they may be born to their children's children.
mm,
So you see the bondage aspect. In this life, there is naturally attachment brings misery. Krishna says, the results of attachment is misery. And then how it spines and how it is still the physical aspect and not the spiritual aspect in the center.
mm. Yeah. This is, for me, I feel like this is one of the harder things to wrap the mind around. It's a little bit more esoteric, and it's because there isn't, the no one's like there isn't the encouragement to not do things with love or to not love people, right? It's almost like just trying to see the reality. Like
Mm,
if you see your children and everybody else as like
mm.
we're
Thank you.
all part and parcel, right, of the divine. And so
Mm,
that's like what our real identity is.
mm,
The first lesson of Bhagavad Gita, you're the spirit soul,
mm,
you're not the body. All
mm,
these family members, all these people on this battlefield are also not the body. So
mm,
there's no need, to lament.
mm,
It's like if we keep that in mind, or we really
mm,
try to focus on that, then it's like someone who has that mentality is going to be caring for their children, loving their children,
mm,
meeting all of their needs, spending,
mm,
their time,
mm,
taking care of them. There's going to be
mm,
no difference externally,
mm,
like what they do.
mm,
It's just a difference of, it's like when a difficult situation arises, perhaps,
mm,
they'll you can practice a little more detachment and see, what is the best thing for this spirit soul developing
mm,
itself, right? Rather than that attitude of like, this is mine, this is
mm,
my thing, my child, or my possession, and sort of, coveting that. It's at least that's how I think of it. It's like, you can keep a detached view,
mm.
but still do all the same things.
And that's what Krishna says from the perspective keeping Krishna in the center. Prabhupada would say, do things keeping Krishna in the center. So the mother is taking care of the child, and the goal of mother is to help the child grow spiritually.
Mm,
So when Krishna is in the center, it's elevation. That relationship will elevate us.
mm, mm. I guess one thing that comes to mind, Prabhuji, it seems like, it's in the world of dualities that we live in, you know, um, like, it's referred to as Maya, uh, this sort of, illusoriness to existence that's characterized by, dual nature. it seems like you sort of have a choice of whether you're going to act selflessly or selfishly. Um, it's like it's like each action, the motivation is really either maybe it's like based off of an attachment or not based off of an attachment. Um, what I'm thinking and what I'm looking at is verse 16 of this third chapter, where Krishna, he says living only for the satisfaction of the senses, right? Someone who does that lives in vain, you know.
Mm,
And it's, in comparison or in opposition to performing, your duty and your work as a sacrifice. And
mm,
so, at least Krishna he's presenting this to us. He's saying this is the way it is. He always gives us the option, just like he gives
mm,
our Arjuna the option at the end
mm,
of Bhagavad Gita. I've told you everything, but
mm,
you could do whatever you want. Um, it's like, look, if you work to satisfy your senses, if
mm,
you work in a way where it's just sort of trying to get more for you, get the things you want, um, it's gonna bind you. You're
mm,
gonna suffer more.
mm,
Even if that's, you're attached to a particular family member or a friend or, whatever it is, if that attachment to that thing, that feeling like you possess that thing, you have to control that thing. If you let that grow within you, you're gonna act on you're gonna act that out, and it's gonna cause you to suffer in the world. And
mm,
really the alternative, the way out of that is to do your work as a sacrifice.
mm, mm,
Um, and so it's like there is kind of like we're sort of forced into doing things for either for the divine or for this ego, this sense of self that we have. And
mm,
everything kind of ultimately just goes into one of those two categories. Or at least it
mm.
seems to me. I'm curious, what do you think about that?
Can you give some example?
Hmm.
Like how a person lives in when if he's attached?
Hmm. Um, what am I saying? Sometimes I just start saying things and it's sort of like, okay, this isn't a, let's go with this idea. Let's see where this. But I mean, I guess I'm saying, Krishna's sort of, he's telling us, look, it's got to be this kind of, it's just one thing or the other, really, right? Like you're either going to work as a sacrifice with detachment, or you're going to be attached. And if you are attached, you're going to get more attached.
Mm,
Um, so maybe like an example of a business person.
mm,
Um, if a business person is detached from the results, trying to,
mm,
perform their work as a sacrifice, sort of trying to you know, please the divine. And by
mm,
the divine, it's like sort of it's I mean, I don't know how to describe the divine, but it's sort of like, it's everything, right? It's like it's where everything comes from. It's the cause of the nature of everything. It's the cause of all the people around us. We're trying to make that divine happy. Um, no matter what happens in that business person's affairs, they're just going to continue on. They can sort
mm,
of perform their work happily, perform their work in a steady manner, and
mm,
sort of keep it in mind that this is helping me. This work is helping me purify myself. Um, and I'm just not going to be attached to the results. You know, and so that's one option. And it feels to me like the only other option is I'm attached. I need the results. I want the results. Um, I'm getting all my emotions mixed in. This deal doesn't go through. I'm very upset. Really inside, I'm very upset. Um, if we do, say the company's very successful, I'm very elated. I'm just, I'm like so proud of myself. I'm so, now I'm thinking, well, the things I'm gonna buy. Um, whereas, if you work in detachment, you're just whatever results come, you're going, this is a gift. And so I'm not owning any of these things. Um, so anyway, yeah, I guess that's sort of what I mean.
Unless
It's
it
like
is
you.
done, yeah, unless it is done keeping the Lord in the center, it's gonna cause bondage, bro.
You just
There
said, yeah, you said everything I said in 5 minutes, but in 5 seconds, it's like, that's it.
Krishna says lives in vain means um, the life does not help him grow.
Mm,
See, if you see the purpose of life is like, for example, the purpose of life is to elevate ourselves, not to remain in a bonded state in this world. Na? It is said this word is just repetition. That there is, we believe in reincarnation, Eastern culture. It's just going on like this. The goal is elevation. And if somebody is like, for example, there is an ant has to go from point A to point B. The ants work very hard and just rotates around here and there. So it's like the time it went in vain. The ant did not make any progress to go from point A to point B. Just going up and down, left and right, eating something here and there, and just become self-absorbed and not focus on the goal. So Krishna says those who are working and they're working for themselves, it's like there is no progress there. And it just causes bondage, just the future destination, and attachment leads to misery, and the life is going in vain.
mm,
The idea is that Arjuna needs to work because it is his nature, and he needs to work for the pleasure of the Lord.
mm, mm. And
Duryodhana is fighting also, he is doing his karma, but his life is going in vain.
yeah. Well, I was just thinking as well, it's like you're saying if, you get to a point where you really start to love the sacrifice,
Mm.
you find a lot of joy in
Becomes
the sacrifice. And
mm.
so it's like you get rewarded doubly, I suppose,
Mm.
you sort of are rewarded for the work you've done, but then you also just
Mm.
come to love doing it.
Mm.
And I guess Arjuna's case is similar anyway. Like he
Mm.
he loves to fight anyway, so it's like
It's
he's
his
just
nature.
being, yeah, he's just, if he goes and does his duty, he's going to enjoy what he does.
Yeah. So that's why, like we discussed last week, we have to do what our nature forces us to do. We discussed about four kind of people, and we need like some is like business class people and leaders or scholars or professors, different kind of people. So it's just about doing our duty, what we are meant to do, and see how can I make it centered around my spiritual progress. We don't have directly Krishna to tell us you do this for me, but then we have some understanding that how can I direct it, like how Prabhupada would say keep bring Krishna in the center of relationship, center of work. And how that come into the center is by having a regular practice of bhakti. That little bhakti that we do every day, or devotion service we do every day, that permeates in our relationship, in our work, that just spreads everywhere. But it is not possible in this age to not have that central bhakti practice and then take the principle of karma and take the principle of everything and doing it for the sake of the Lord when that is not there. So that's like a light bulb. When it glows, then it spreads everywhere. It's little connection with electricity and light grows and spreads everywhere. Likewise, when there is little practice of bhakti regular, then it's gonna spread our consciousness throughout everything we do. Then only these verses are possible. That's why we say karma yoga or bhakti yoga. We say the primary is bhakti yoga. And there is an art of karma yoga that we are discussing. And that art we'll be able to practice by the practice of this bhakti yoga. But we're trying to understand, okay, what is karma yoga? Again, it centers around that. And actually, there is almost no difference between karma and bhakti from those perspectives. For Arjuna, there is no difference between karma yoga and bhakti yoga. For us, there is a difference because Arjuna is doing only for the sake of Krishna. Then it's pure bhakti yoga actually. For us, when we do our work, yes, I'm doing it for myself. But then I'm training myself to bring the Lord in the center somewhere or the other. Like you're discussing about the book. Okay, how can I bring a nice messages in the book? So
Mm.
we are bringing bhakti in the center. And everything we do, we try to bring bhakti in the center. And then gradually, it's a process, na? Gradually everything coincides. And whether we are working or not, doing karma or other everything, the whole life becomes a life of bhakti yogi. Karma is there. Like, see, writing books is karma, na? We see Kalakanta Prabhu writes books, but there is no difference for him between karma and bhakti. Karma is there. Like we have to clean, we have to buy the groceries. Um, we have to do so many things every day. So karma principle cannot go away. But what's the center of everything that we are doing? Yeah. See, the word yoga itself means connection. Everyone, we cannot stop working. Na? Like I'm sure none of us can sit in a room for the whole day. Actually, we are active people. We are always doing something because it's our nature. But it's just whatever duty or whatever activity. Again, the karma does not necessarily relate to job. Karma means work. Karma means activity. So karma yoga means, can our activity be centered around the Lord? Whatever activity we are doing. Driving is also an activity. Like nowadays we relate to karma yoga as okay, somebody is software developer, then he's karma yogi. But not necessary. Karma is like any activity which is based on our nature. Can I center it around the Lord? Can I do it for the sake of the Lord? Then it is karma yoga.
Mm.
And lack of karma yoga means I have a nature and I'm just lazy. I sit around and then I sleep whole day and I neglect my duties, whatever I have. Now we are missing the boat.
Mm. Mm. So is it like karma yoga is sort of like a basis? You're doing your duty. And so if you're
Based on
doing
it,
that,
yes.
it's like you're sort
Yes.
of you're on a good track, you know. And then after that it's sort of this process of trying to turn it into bhakti yoga or try to do
Mm.
it, you know, more as a sacrifice.
Otherwise, that karma yoga becomes a bondage. Otherwise, it's not karma yoga anymore, right? Because yoga means that
Uh,
helps us connect with the divine. Otherwise, it's just because karmis. Karmis means only activity for the sake of activity. And then there is attachment to results, and people are not happy, even if they see the life in this world, nobody can be truly happy in this world. I was just thinking before this call, like there is somebody told me that our president went and like our like great spiritual teachers, like many sannyasis like Radhanath Swami and president of America, president of India, so they all went to a wedding. And this is the wedding of, he is like the richest man in India, and he is one of the richest man in the whole world. So he spent, I don't know, some billions of dollars on his daughter's wedding, and he invited all great personalities, like those who are famous, either spiritual leaders or political leaders, or like, all, no, not everybody is allowed. And then it's like, so somebody was telling about, send me some pictures of Maharaj going in that wedding, and there was something. And I was thinking about this lady, this girl she's getting married. And people may think, wow, what a life. But really, she also has, somebody speaks a harsh word, maybe her mother or her father or her brother or her husband, and pains. And then we cannot enjoy anything really. We overeat and then we cannot digest. Even if you are trillionaire or billionaire, Prabhu, you eat anything and there is a mouth ulcer. You eat too much sweets and there is mouth ulcer. And there is diabetes and there is cancer. And nobody in this world can be happy. You see from an external perspective and you see everything is glamour. But this world is not glamorous. You go to the personal life and then you see, and actually, nothing, none of the external can bring us joy. Na? None of us are in scarcity also, if you see. But really, it's about the inner joy. Those who are really happy are who are connected from within. And actually, this Ambani group, one of them is actually disciple of Maharaj. So that's why they invited Maharaj, and they are all spiritually very inclined. Otherwise, why would Maharaj go there?
Mm.
It's only for spiritual upliftment of the whole society and all the people. They travel to different places just to help them grow. So based on one's karma, like there is a description of Maharaj Rahugana and um, Jad Bharat. This comes in Bhagavatam. They were basically a king and a small poor man. But it is said that this poor man was a king in the past life. Last to last life, he was a king. And now he became a poor man. So then he's having a conversation with the king, and king says, I am the master and you are my servant, don't you know? And he basically, this poor man was carrying the king on a palanquin with three other members. And this poor man was always, when he was walking, he's avoiding the ants. So he would suddenly stop and he would take a big jump and he would just bend down. So the king is like getting all this roller coaster ride. And the king became really upset and he said, You are a servant and don't you know who I am? And I am the king, and you know what I can do for you, do to you for this misbehavior. And this poor man said, Who is a king and who is a servant? Right now, you are the king, I am the servant. The situation can reverse in the next life. It did reverse. That was his, and he remembers his both the past life. So, what is this life all about? Really, the thing is that inner thing, inner growth, inner development.
Mm. Yeah, and that's the thing that lasts, right?
That's the thing that can actually satisfy us, that can actually last. There is no reaction in those things. Anything in this world brings anxiety and brings lamentation. Like you heard about Henry Ford?
Henry Ford.
Yeah,
Yes.
great successful man, right? But then you enter his personal life. And then somebody sent me a video and I was watching. So he started with this small, know, just just four wheels and a chassis, and then added a small motor. All that exists is four small wheels, a chassis, and a motor, and it would run. And then he added on the top this cover, and now some little brakes are enhanced, the motor is enhanced now. Everything is like growing, growing, growing. He started capturing the market. And then some other two companies came and his sale went from some few thousand cars a day to maybe few hundred or something. And he has three companies and two of them stopped and an employee left him and he went into depression. And then again after some time his sons and it again picked up.
Mm.
Like if you see anybody's personal life, you see it's always everything is roller coaster, right, bro? This is nature of this world.
Yeah. It's very difficult not to get wrapped up in things like that too, right?
Mm,
Um, it's it's also kind of the nature of this world that like that's just how it is. You know, it's like
mm,
we're sort of born attached,
mm.
right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I guess sometimes I need to remind myself anyway that, you know, it's very, very important to have an idea or of what the goal is,
Mm,
like what this ideal is, or what the it's like, you know, have the thing that you're working towards. You know, we all need to have a goal. And then at the same time, try to realize like where I actually am, and
mm,
that, you know, so you realize that, okay, at least, you know, like I have a lot of attachments here. I have a lot of emotional reactions to things. Um, and you know, part of the spiritual teaching as well is like, you know, no attachment, no aversion. This is partly what your
mm,
goal is. So even if you're averse to being attached, you know, that's still not what you're looking for, you
mm.
know. So it's like there's no use beating
Yeah.
yourself up. There's no use
Mm.
thinking, oh, it's hopeless. Um,
Both are
y-
material.
yeah,
At
both are material
aversion.
things.
Both are people like aversion because they hate something. They hate something because they like the opposites. That's duality, no?
Mhm.
But the goal is internal, keeping Krishna in the center. Like Prabhupada Priya Devi, she is visiting and she was mentioning, try to distinguish between what's reality and what's illusion. What's the reality and what's the illusion? And Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, these spiritual books, Krishna's words, gives us direction towards what's reality and what's illusion.
Mm. Very nice, Roji. I have to mention, I'm sure the audience has been enjoying this too. Your microphone is kind of like it's like flickering a little bit. Like nothing with the microphone itself. I think it's just the background that you have. It's like it's just disappearing and then reappearing. It's almost like it's flickering into existence. Uh, but anyway, I just felt like I should bring that up because it's been happening. Um, but yeah, anyway, Roji, sorry for that little aside. But yeah, thank you so much for all of your insights today. It's been very nice. Yeah. And yeah, we'll continue chapter 3 next time on the Shyamcast.
Next, okay. Thank you very much for joining. Bye for now.